Now that we know how to get values from the user and store them in variables, it's time to use our mathematical operators to calculate some values behind the scenes. I'm going to plan out what I'm going to do and write it in a way that will be ignored by the computer, but will inform a human reading my code what my intentions are. So I'm going to do that by writing comments. And to write a comment, we start a line using a double /. This is how you write a one-line JavaScript comment. So first, I'm going to calculate the tip amount. Next, I'm going to add the tip to the total and store it in a new variable. So let me write that down. Add tip to total, store in new variable. Then I'll create a variable storing the amount that each person should pay. So let's put that as number 3, create variable, store amount each person should pay. And lastly, we have to tell the user how much each person owes. If I can spell, there we go. All right, so what I've done is I've written out exactly what I intend to code just below this. If I'm going to leave all of these comments together, I don't really need to write one-line comments back to back. I could also create a multi-line comment, and let me show you how to do that. First, let me remove all of these comments, and to create a multi-line comment, we can start with the /**, and you'll notice that it grayed out everything underneath it, and we can end it with an */. So now anything I write down here will be code that the computer will read, but anything written in the multi-line comments will be ignored. All right, so let's code up what we've planned out. For number 1, we want to calculate the tip amount. So to do that, we're going to create a constant to store the tip so that we don't later have to change or mutate the value of total bill. So let's name it tip amount and set it equal to 20% of the total bill. And we can do that by multiplying total bill and using an asterisk to do multiplication and multiplying it by 0.2. For number 2, we want to add the tip to the total and store that in a new variable. So let's create a new constant and call it bill plus tip and set it equal to the total bill plus the tip amount. And that should do it, I think. For number 3, we want to create a variable and store the amount that each person should pay. So let's create another constant and we'll call it cost per person. And this will set to the bill plus tip divided by the number of people that are in the party. Lastly, for number 4, we want to tell the user how much each person owes. So I think this is where we're going to fire off an alert, which we saw in the previous video. And inside of the alert, I'm going to use a template literal to tell the user that each person should contribute. I'm going to use a $, and then I'm going to use another $, and curly braces. And inside here, I'm going to use the variable that we've created, cost per person. Actually, it's a constant because it's not changing. So this is going to tell us how much each person should contribute when we run this code. Let me just remove these console.logs to kind of like make our code a little bit cleaner and a little bit simpler. And there we go. We're ready to run it and test it out. Let's see if our code correctly calculates how much each person should contribute when I say that the bill costs $100 and that there were 4 people. With a 20% tip, each person should be contributing $30, and here we go. Let's see what happens. It says that each person should contribute $2,505. So clearly something is going on here, something wrong. And that's not good. So let me see if it's correctly calculating the tip amount. So let me console.log just the tip amount. And I'm going to go one by one down the line and trying to see if this is working correctly. So let me run my code and I'm going to do $100 for the bill. 4 people were in attendance and it still says each person should contribute $25.05. And in my console, I get 20. So that looks like it's right. Let me try to console.log the bill plus the tip. Bill plus tip. Let me rerun it again. I'll do 100 divided by 4, and it still says the wrong number, but here we go. Here's the error. It's saying that the bill plus a tip is 120 put together, which is 10,020. So it looks like something wrong is happening when I add the total bill plus the tip amount. It looks like it's just concatenating those two instead of turning them into numbers. Okay, so why is that happening? Let me try to verify that that's actually what's happening. Let me do the type of bill plus tip. Let me rerun it. I know it's kind of like repetitive, but this is what debugging is like. And it says that it's a string. So clearly there's a problem when we're trying to combine these values and they're becoming strings. And I'm going to guess that that's happening because the prompt is probably turning the value received into a string. Let me actually test this out. Let me do a console.log, and let me just log out the type of the total bill. And let me run it. Total bill was 100. Total number of people who were in attendance is 4. And we get string. So yes. So here we're seeing that the total bill is being turned into a string. And we don't want it to be a string. We want it to be a number. So it's probably having something to do with prompt. So let's try to Google this. Let's try to find an answer using Google. Let's try JavaScript convert prompt string to number. Let's try something like that. And it looks like our first result is how to get numeric value from a prompt box. And it looks like this question is exactly the same one we're having here, where we're not able to perform any calculations because the variable that gets stored is a string. And if we look at the first answer, it says that we can use parseInt or parseFloat to convert the values into integers or floats respectively. So if you see over here in the example, we can convert x into a number by putting parseInt in front of the x, and we can set a new variable for that. So actually, let's do that. Let's go back to our code and use this example just in the same way that we just saw. All right, so I'm going to create a new constant and call it total bill num, so that way I know it's a number, and I'm going to set it equal to parseInt, and in the parentheses, we're going to put total bill. So it's going to take the value from line 1 and turn it into a number. And we have to do the same thing for number of people. So let's create another constant and call it number of people num. I know this name is probably not that great, but we're just trying to get it to work right now. And I'm going to use parseInt again. And inside the parentheses, I'm going to put number of people, which is actually a string because that's what prompt is creating. Okay, so now let me just modify my code down here. So wherever I see total bill, I should put total bill num, and let's see, let me remove this line, and number of people, instead of number of people, now I got to put number of people num. So I think that should do it. Now if I run my code and I type in 100 for the total bill, how many people were in attendance, I put 4, each person should contribute $30. And that is exactly what I wanted. All right, so you just saw how I debugged a problem that came up. Debugging is sometimes annoying because you don't know what's going on. But if you use Google and you learn how to type in the right search terms, you're going to find the answer more often than not. So I wonder what's going to happen if I say that the bill totaled something that ends up being some like weird number that doesn't divide evenly. I guess in the next video, we'll figure out how to handle that case and anticipate other inputs that a user may enter, because we don't know if the user is going to try to break the program by typing in like a letter instead of a number. I'll see you in the next video.